Hello, world. My name is Eddie. I'm known as the Wazoo right now. I'll explain to you that later in detail. I'm a lifelong Chicagoan, North Sider. I absolutely love this city. I have met many interesting people, characters, you would say, and have done a lot of crazy things over the days in the North Side, downtown, South Side, all of it. And I'm ready to tell you all the stories. So I will first begin with my first guest. Is one of my best friends growing up. Known her since 6th grade. She's doing a little dance over because she was a cheerleader. Forget about it. But anyhow, she will come and also, as I tell my stories, I guess, kind of help verify that this ain't bullshit. A lot of crazy things have happened in my life, and a lot of times people, when I've told my stories in the past, would say, maybe raise their eyebrows, but the one thing I think you're gonna learn over time, that I don't bullshit. I say it the way it is, plain and simple. So now let me introduce you one of my best friends, a woman I've known for almost 50 years now. And she's still talking to me. But anyhow, it's very important that you meet her because obviously she's been through my journey from the very start, which I call the journey from since I met her at Queen of Angels. So tell her a little bit about herself and giddy up, forget about it.
So Ed and I have been friends, like you said, since 1977 when Ed came to Queen of Angels. Queen of Angels is a parish in Chicago, and anybody who lives in Chicago and anyone who has visited Chicago and talked to people here know that our parishes are very important to us, which I didn't even realize until I was in college and had a friend come to visit, and they told me that when they came out with me to the bars that everyone introduced themselves, their name, and then what parish they were from. So when we're talking about Queen of Angels during Ed's podcast, and
Right.
As time goes on, you're going to hear a lot about parishes. So our parish is still, for Ed and I both, Queen of Angels.
Right.
So we met there in 1977 when Ed came in mid-school year, and our journey continued, and it never faltered. We have been friends continuously since that time.
Absolutely.
Teenagers, young adults, young married people, children. Our children went to the same grade school.
Queen of Angels.
Ed's twins are in between two of my children. Our kids went to the same high school, the Great St. Ignatius. And then they went to different colleges, but our journey has always been intertwined. And Ed is one of my dearest, dearest friends, and I love him dearly.
As well as I do.
So I will let Ed tell his story of when he came to Queen of Angels in the mid-school year, and he came to a school where most of us had been together since first grade. So it wasn't the easiest to move in sixth grade in the middle of the school year, but somehow he did, and he became one of the most popular kids. So take it away.
So anyhow, as I was explaining to you before, where I'd gone to different schools, and a lot had to do is, God rest her soul, my mother sent me to different schools all the time, moving to different apartments all the time, and things like that. And so we ended up at Queen of Angels. And I remember it was mid-year, I would think like February, March, something like that year. And I remember when I first had gotten to school there, everyone was like saying, boy, oh boy, we wish you'd have been here earlier because you could have been on the football team because, Queen of Angels was a big thing, football was a big thing for us then. So all I know is my mom gets me all set up. But as I said, my mother was a very hardcore German. She still had the accent, Sonny boy, all that kind of stuff. You knew my mother was German from the first couple words that came out of her mouth. And so she was always proud. So she tried to put me in this nice little outfit, suit, whatever you would call it. And I called it the lederhosen outfit. It was like, I felt it was like I was like Sound of Music or something like that with the Tramp family up in the mountains. It was awful, and then with a briefcase, of course, and everything like that.
What a way to go to school!
And I go, Mom, I'm gonna get my ass kicked. I go, what are you doing to me? This is terrible. So basically, I did go to school, and I had no idea I had said this, but both friends of ours that we went to school with, our friend Pat, he said, I'll never forget the day when you went to class that day. I walked through, hey, oh, by the way, my name's Ed, and by the way, I'm smarter than all of you. And I said, my
Nice
God.
introduction.
So I was a little, I would call it confident. All right. I mean, confidence is not a bad thing at all. But 3 guys I was supposed to get fights with, all lined up at the end of the day of school. Fights never happened, long story short, but they turned out to be some of my best friends. So
You were literally just at Pat's
right,
big birthday party
right, 60th
3
birthday
weeks
party.
ago.
And he was one of the guys I was supposed to get in a fight with, who was the nicest guy in the world too. And he couldn't take enough of me the first day, so he wanted to kick my ass too. But the one thing is, which is very important, that's why Rose mentioned the neighborhood and stuff like that. It's Queen of Angels. It was funny back in the days. Now you got Lakeview and Roscoe Village and shit like that. But back in the day, it was the parish. It was Queen of Angels, St. Ben's, St. Andrews,
St.
like
Matthias.
Mercy, right? My God, right? Forget about it. It was always, hell yeah, that's my neighborhood. I'm living in the St. Ben's neighborhood. I live in, it's like that. And it was kind of funny because back in the day, when you went to Catholic school, it's a lot different from what it is, for what I perceive now. Is back in the days, we were rough and tumble kids. It was kind of, it was a little different, I remember back in the day, we was a school called Waters, which was right around the corner from us over there. And it was, back then, public schools, the kids were pretty tough and all that, wild kids. And all the time, the rumors, they're coming,
so
they're coming to
thought.
fight. They never showed up because they knew they'd get their asses kicked. They played it simple. We were pretty wild, crazy, not hoodlums, but tough in our own right. And it was that was the way.
It was a different time.
It was a different time. It is for what it is now.
And I think a lot of people listening will understand that, right? If anyone's like close to our age group, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
In all the different peerages, West Side, South Side,
It's like
Beverly, Des Plaines, they all had.
The one thing my wife said she's right about, by the way, my wife, the genius, forget about it. I remember, in fact, when I came back, when I was going to Queen of Angels, I think it was 7th grade, I walked in, I told my mother, I go, Mom, I'm going to marry an Irish chick. And she goes, what the hell are you talking about? I go, there's so many Irish girls around here. There's no way, but I'm going to marry one. I did marry one, but she came from Jersey. But anyhow, the deal is, when she first came to Chicago, she said Chicago was it was a segregated city. And I think it was not necessarily meant to be segregated, but just how neighborhoods were back then. It was just, people grew up in that neighborhood and they stayed in that neighborhood. They made it close-knit like that. And I don't know. That was my opinion of the scenario. It was not just because it was meant to be that way. It was just meant that people never really left neighborhoods. They stayed in those neighborhoods for a lot of years.
We were kind of insulated, right? I think we didn't really know all the stuff that was going on.
And I guess until later on, until I moved out of the neighborhood, and obviously when I tell my stories when I went to high school like that, and I moved to some crazy effing neighborhoods, where, by the way, they used to call me Golden Boy because it was a lot of Puerto Ricans and me. And they call me Golden Boy because you can see how red my face is now because I was late to the lakefront today fishing. I get really red. So the deals, they used to always make fun of me. Hey, Golden Boy, Golden Boy.
Let me just interject here that this will not be a PC podcast.
No, it won't. And it's my intention never is to offend at all. It never. And I'm a motherfucker. I'm a son of a bitch. Right? I'm a bad guy. So I understand that. And I thank God every day
You're not a bad guy.
For my mother, not my mother, well, my mother, of course, but my wife and my kids. Because when we grew in our neighborhood, it was a very different time. And that's when I got to learn to be with other cultures and other different type of people where, it's, I don't know, when you're not used to things like that, it's a very difficult thing. And I claimed ignorance, all right, plain and simple.
But our school we weren't all white kids. We had all nationalities at our kids.
It was. We had, we would say Irish, Puerto Rican, Mexican, Filipino was a lot.
Thai,
my buddy Pony, forget about it. The deal is, it was a nice mixed culture, but it's like when I never came across African Americans, stuff like that. It was a whole different world for us.
In grade school,
and right, and it's like, I guess that's when you learn and you grow, when you get to meet new people, and that's
Right,
when you
throughout
realize
life.
how wonderful life is, and how the different people make everything wonderful still, and it's great. But I will
So
let her.
I'm going to ask Ed to tell us the greatest night of your life,
Okay, greatest night of my life, greatest day of my life.
greatest day of your life.
Well, it was Queen of Angels football championship,
Well,
of
that
course,
was
in
that
eighth
on
grade.
Friday night.
Oh, that's right. And
We tease him about this because he says it's the greatest night of his life.
that is a story which I guess we'll get into it now. My wife and I, we went to a thing called pre-Cana. For those who are not Catholic, it's basically like saying, let's test to see if you really know each other. And they ask you all these questions and personal questions. You know, what do you think about kids and everything? And I remember when we were doing it ourselves when you were younger, like, well, this is bullshit, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, when I was there, I think 4 or 5 couples walked off and didn't do it because they really didn't know each other, right? And so they had the question. Forget about it. The question, he goes,
This is so funny.
mention the 5 most important moments of your life, right? And everybody, you know, the day I met her or the day I proposed and blah, blah. And don't get me wrong, I mean, my wife made number 3, okay? I mean, the deal was, I didn't know her that long. I mean, let's be realistic about this. Forget about it. I mean, it was Queen of Angels football championship, and actually right now I can't remember what number 2 was. Oh, I mean, it was the Bears winning the Super Bowl. All right, so that's what it was. That's what it was, right? Then the day I met my wife, and then when we proposed, number 4. But the deal was, as I said, I tell it the way it is. All right, I tell the truth, and still one of the greatest decisions I ever made in my life. Forget about it. Anyhow, we all know that. But the deal is,
Absolutely.
at that time, I mean, as we're talking about parishes like that. What was special about that championship that year, and she contested this, is that in 7th grade, we didn't win an effing game. We sucked. We blew, okay? We had about 5 8th graders. They were a bunch of wusses. We won't get to we won't get to that fact. But the next year, we went undefeated. Everybody we beat. And one St. Ida's, remember when they come back, they had these 2 big guys as running backs. We beat them too. We beat everybody. And, you know, it was like, we are the champions. Our friends was our theme song because that's when the Queen song came out, and it was
extremely exciting.
It was exciting, and when you're in 8th grade, stuff like that.
At Potawatomi Park.
Oh yeah,
in
my
Rogers
God,
Park.
Jesus Christ, yes, and those are the things that I mean, and which we'll explain later on. Stories about when I was growing up. We had a lot of fun things that we went on. We did little wrecks. I would say we were rambunctious, right? Not necessarily bad. We were drinking. I mean, we were robbing people, shooting people, like that. But we all turned out pretty well. And the deal is, later on, such as Rose, I'm going to have other guests too. And I'm going to try to keep it to neighborhoods. So I'm going to, Lincoln Square will be a show. I will talk about Lincoln Park. I will talk about Roscoe Village, and like that. And then I basically will begin with the stories about what I did back in the day. As I said, what I've done, I'm not proud of. I was a drug dealer.
Some of the things.
I was when my mother comes home crying, I haven't paid last month's rent and I don't have this month's rent. You know what? Hey, I did what I had to do. All right. I mean, the situation was I did this shit, but I was in the school peddling in the corner, right? I realized.
You weren't at the school peddling.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, you were
and
not.
The deal is, I just found out who had the best shit, the best quality crap, and people came to me, and it worked. It worked very well. And the deal was, it took me awakening like that. The situation, things were bad and whatever. But the deal was, I end up meeting my wife, St. Patty's Day. Forget about it. She's a genius, a wonderful being. I mean, first.
It's a great story, and I think Ed's going to tell that on
another
episode.
Another episode, but
it's a beautiful story. How you met Nancy. And the deal is,
that's when I realized things are destiny, and that's why I'm here to tell my crazy stories and let you know that why Chicago is still the greatest fucking city in the world. Still, I don't care what anybody says.
It is.
It's a wonderful place. I mean, to me, Chicago, you have the Ohio, Indiana, it's got the total Midwestern feel. Indiana, all these people come to Chicago, the big city, try to succeed in life.
A lot of Ohio people.
Right? I mean, like every state around Wisconsin, stuff like that. We'll take the cheeseheads once in a while, but forget about it. My God.
We love Wisconsin.
When the men are men, so are the women. It's with the long so they fillet fish better than the guy. But the deal is, that's why I think Chicago is special. A majority of the time I think, don't get me wrong, everybody has a bad apple, but the deal is, I think Chicago is special for one of the reasons because of that. Because people, you know what? In Minnesota.
Well, I think our experience is that, right? Like for the most part, everyone, most of the people we grew up with were really great. We're still friends with a lot of those people today, which is, that's really something to be said, I think, about our connection. And then new people came into our groups too, right? Like you met other Tony and other people later on.
Right, later on.
They came into the group and, life moved on. And, we had grade school and then high school and moved on from there. And I've learned a lot of new stories about Ed that I didn't know, even though we've been friends for so long. So I think a funny story that happened with us was, I don't even know what year it was. I think it was 1983. And we were going out. We were going to a bar.
Okay. Well, this is not a funny story. Let's get the facts straight, okay? But go ahead.
It's kind of funny. I mean,
not for you, but go ahead.
So we were going out and... we were smoking a little weed before we went into the bar, and I was sitting on the hood of Ed's car, and
a 1971 Monte Carlo SS classic, beautiful car. And when especially when you got those jeans with all the metal on it, it's always a great idea.
I didn't even. I know what jeans I had on.
No. The jump on the hood of my classic car. God forbid, that's a wonderful idea.
You didn't say anything to me then, and then
I said, "Get off the hood,
no,
please."
you didn't. And then, you were with Dave, and then you guys decided you were going to come into the bar. I don't even remember who else was in the parking lot, but. Anyway, Ed went to park the car, and for some reason, where I was standing, the wheel caught my leg and dragged me under the car. And you didn't even realize it at the time. And I stood up, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I think I broke my leg. Do you remember it differently?
No. This is what I remember. I said, "Rose, please jump off the car." Now it was wintertime, very icy, stuff like that. So when you jumped off my car, I believe you slipped a little bit.
It was October.
And the car is Monte Carlo. If anybody knows, the 71 had a huge FM engine. It was big in front. So when it was turning around, I
had cowboy boots on and
I ran her leg over, and it was. I didn't feel a thing because of the big ass motor.
Poor Ed. I was like, "You need to take me to the ER." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "I have to go to the emergency room. I can't walk on my leg." Poor thing, you were so upset, but you drove me to the hospital. You drove me to the hospital. In those days, I was in the hospital for a week with my leg in traction, and poor Ed came to visit, and he came with like 24 roses, and he comes into the room, and he's just looking so defeated, and I'm in pain, but I'm like, it wasn't mad. It wasn't his fault. He didn't do it on purpose, but I was like, "Leave! You're making me feel guilty." Because you were so upset.
The deal is one of the reasons Rose and I also were very close. She's single child, such as myself.
Only child.
And
we're both only children, yeah.
Our neighborhood was basically, especially with the Irish, was
my God.
The father were tough, rough, hardworking, usually construction type of guys. And
which my dad was one of those.
And the women were, like your mother, a saint, wonderful human being. And I got to tell you the truth, I was scared shitless. Your old man, I thought he was going to beat the shit out of me. My God, what the fuck? and the deal was like, man, get out of here.
Mad at you.
No, but I'm going to tell you one thing. When we went to your father's funeral, and when your mother told me one of the greatest compliments I ever got in my effing life was, James really liked you. He thought you had balls. And I go, you know what? No,
I can't even imagine my mom saying that.
Yeah, she said it. And then I go, wow, that was a great compliment because you know what? He was,
he knew you were honest and that you were a good person.
And then also you probably heard me a lot of times. We're supposed to go to Oak Street Beach, right? This is when we were younger. You always take the train to go down there for Oak Street Beach, and then we're all the kids ready. And then her father would come home or something like that for work or lunch, something like that, and he'd be like, "What the, which I'd be saying the same thing. What the fuck these punks doing in my house right now when he's there?"
Oh, he would.
And what Rose? Oh no, we're taking our time. I go, Rose. I go. I guarantee you hear me go. Let's get the hell out of here. There's no reason for the bother shit. It's sunny. We're supposed to be going to the beach. Let's get the fuck out of here.
I was a brat.
I think he heard me, and that's why he probably liked me because of that. So,
And I think you were good to Joe Briotti. I think he knew
Jim
that.
Browdy, everybody.
Jim, but the
Yeah,
dad too,
the
because
dad
you would
yeah.
go with Jim to go get Joe.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that too. I think
now,
he saw
is,
that.
That is a good story there. All right. Now, her mother and one of my, God rest his soul, also Jim Browdy, one of my best friends also growing up, his father and her father would go to this place called Foremost Liquors, right? Around, right at Lincoln and Lawrence, probably about, I would say about half a mile away from our houses. So I remember we'd always come home. We'd go after school. I mean, when I'd go with Jimmy afterwards, and Jimmy would always have the same meat and potatoes every effing day, but a different version, mashed potatoes.
Meat and potatoes every day.
I mean, it was always like that. And we go there one day. I go there, and I go, come on, Jimmy, let's go. And Mrs. Bryan was one of the nicest people in the world, never got angry about anything. And she goes, Jimmy, why don't you go take Eddie to go get that? I think because Jimmy was kind of laid back, and I was still so, I guess, rambunctious, loud back then. And he goes, why don't you go get Eddie and go get your father and bring him back to the house? And I go, I don't want to do it. She goes, if you want to play with Jimmy,
you should go do this.
You're going to go do this. Otherwise, you ain't going to. And I go, wow. And I go, whoa.
Wow.
She never did. I go, whoa. And I go, wow.
I never heard her talk like that.
I know. No problem. So I go over there, and I did it a couple of times, pick him up over there. And I remember they had a big sign of if the old lady calls, he left and all this shit. You know, they used to laugh. They used to laugh about it, right? He's not here. He never came. And I walked in and I did a couple times, picked him up. And I remember your father and especially Mr. Browdy, motherfucker. And I remember, like, you think I want to come pick you up and ruin your day drinking? And I go, the only reason I want to go is I want to go play ball with Jimmy right now. And that's the only reason like that. They'd be following behind us just swearing, son of a bitch.
Were you walking?
Yeah, I was walking. They were right behind me. And I go, just like a lot of times now, you're not walking, you're wobbling a little bit. But the point is that's one thing I'll always remember is like I would go there. But you know what?
Was that in grade school?
Yes, and it wasn't like I was scared. It was just like me. I'd be a flock, dance, venting, letting it out, and everything. And it was awesome. It was just growing up in the neighborhood over there, and that's the way the neighborhood was.
Being an only child, I think, because I was very close with that family as well, and I think that being an only child, you liked being around where there were like siblings together,
right?
You know, and so
it's like I wish I always had a brother and sister, stuff like that. But
right, of course.
But I guess, like my mother said, they broke the mold when they made my ass. But I guess forget about it.
So talking about doing this podcast with Ed, I have learned stories that I never heard before. One was of Ed in 7th grade in a basement room he created.
Yeah, forget about it. So anyways, this is when I realized that could have been a great fucking a private investigator. So I will not mention. I will just say
no names.
No names. I can't mention names.
Not even first names.
S, we'll say S. So the deal is Miss S, right, was a very beautiful woman, far as she was a German girl, which I was German also. So the deal, that's where the connection. And there was so few Germans in the neighborhood anymore. You know what I mean? They all flew the coop. I don't know what the fuck happened. So anyway,
they kept their shops. The shops were all German.
Yeah. They kept the Myers and stuff like that. A couple of restaurants and bars. The Hooten Bar, but the deal is because our neighborhood used to be mainly German, and then the Irish came in a little bit, and then it just changed after that. But so, anyways, I really wanted to, get together with this girl like that. I was trying to set this thing up as best I could. So the deal is, I lived in a 16-unit, multi-unit building, as you will, right at Wilson.
I walked
11.
past it today.
Right,
believe it or not, is
really?
that funny? Yeah.
So, anyways, we had the laundry room over there. We had these, back in the days, you used to have like metal cages where you'd be your storage rooms. And they were not very big. They'd probably be like 6x4, something like that, like that. And everybody had a metal cage for the storage. So my mother and I mean, it was just us like that. We didn't have much storage in there at all. So anyhow, I remember for like about a week to 10 days, I would go down, and this is when I started smoking pot and stuff like that in 7th grade. Well, 6th grade, whatever, 7th grade.
Shocking.
Yeah, I know, breaking news. So
no, really shocking. I'm serious. So
anyhow, I'm smoking. I would go down there, and we had the gangway you would go down there in order to get down there. So I would spend every, afternoon after school, a little while, and I was trying to get an idea about who was going to do the laundry. There's certain times of day, there's unit such and such, student miss whatever they know misses like that. So after I go, fuck, I think I got to figure it out. So the deal is, I remember I put like towels and blankets, you know, up on the cages up there, and then try to put a nice blanket on the bottom and.
So you had this planned out.
Planned out, right. So the deal was going to be my first time.
Come over to my basement.
Right. So
So
anyhow, she and I are down there, and I remember she goes, boy, I never imagined my first time being like this, you know.
Oh, so she knew too.
Yeah. She knew.
Did you talk about it? Like this is what was going to happen, or
I think.
You must have.
We must have talked about it.
Honestly, I had no idea.
The deal is, well, forget about it. When you're a young boy like that, and like your hormones are jumping like Mexican jumpy beans. Oh my God, it's like it's going nuts.
I thought we were all innocent in grade school.
No. So anyhow, I tried to wine and dine the best I could. So the deal was, with French fries and egg rolls.
From McDonald's.
From Wasan. So anyway. We're getting ready to, go at it and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden, boom, somebody walks in. I go, fuck. So I remember we
to do laundry?
Yeah, something like that. And it was somebody that left her shit in the dryer from earlier. And she was just late picking up her dryer. I go, fuck. So we just were quiet, left down, and then that was my first time at 2200 West Wilson Avenue in the basement.
How old were you? 13?
13.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's shocking.
Oh my God.
Good Catholic boy.
Hey, actually, you know what? You got to do my cue, because that's when I realized I was. Come on. I'm a big boy now.
Did you record that?
Yeah. That's what I realized.
That is crazy.
And it was funny. I was in Pinocchio. That my nose was a girl that day.
Oh my God.
I'll tell you that right now. Forget about it.
If your mom had known, she'd been like, Eddie.
Oh, yeah, sonny boy. That's not the way I taught you.
Correct.
Right, but I think that those are things that I realized that Queen of Angels is really special, and it was a lot of fun, and I think people are really going to enjoy this.
I think, like, as a parent today, like, I'd be, like, hearing that, like, thinking of, like, my children at that age, I'd be appalled, but It was just a different time, and I have heard over the years many different stories from guys about being really young. You guys were crazy.
We were, it was like, it's one thing about Queen of Angels.
It's like you were older earlier.
Right. Exactly.
Than kids today.
Yeah, I mean, because the things of back then, we grew up so much faster.
And we were out on our own a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, my God, my mother had no idea what the fuck I was doing. I would leave the house at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning to go play baseball, and she said, when those street lamps come on at 9 o'clock at night, you better be home. She had no idea where I had lunch, no idea where I had dinner.
Yeah, I think we were.
I came in one piece. She was happy.
They weren't watching us as much as kids are watched today, right? And I think, like, we also had jobs earlier, right? We all were working little jobs to make some of our own cash to go out to the stores.
Absolutely,
we did all that kind of stuff.
I was getting grotory bags, helping old ladies.
I didn't know people were having
grade,
sex at 13 years old, but I thought they were working.
I took the CTA bus when I was in first grade, for God's sake.
Wow. To school?
Right by you, Wazoo, 900 West Fulton, right in Lincoln Park by the DePaul University. I used to take it to St. Joseph at.
He's talking to John, our producer.
Yeah, right? Right there, 900 West Fulton. In first F grade, I was taking the CTA bus by myself.
You would never see that. You would never see that today.
No. I mean, it's like...
Anyway, Ed's got a lot of great stories to tell, and I know he's got some great guests planned.
And it's, you know what? I think you'd enjoy the ride, and I'm going to tell you right now, forget about it.